Welcome to Elizabeth's Chronicles. If you love true crime, consider subscribing. Gregory Greene was born on December 10, in 1966. He married Tonya Clayton Greene, who had two small children from a previous relationship. The couple had been married for only a year and a half when they found out they were expecting their first child together. In July of 1991, when Tonya was 6 months pregnant, she began noticing her husband's behavior had changed. She was planning on leaving him. Before she could do that, he cornered her in the kitchen, and stabbed her 10 times with a steak knife. He then calls 911 and reported what he had done, saying, "I stabbed her. She's in the kitchen." The two small children were in the home unharmed. Tonya and their unborn baby died from the stab wounds. He initially pled insanity, but changed to no contest for second-degree murder. He was sentenced to 15 to 25 years in prison. He was denied parole 4 times. During that time, the local pastor of Risen Christ Ministries International Church, Fred Harris, who was friends with Greene, pushed for Greene to be released. In 2005, he wrote to the parole board, "Gregory and I were friends before this mishap, and he was incarcerated. He was a member of our church. I feel he has paid for his unfortunate lack of self-control, and the damage he has caused as much as possible, and is sorry." During his 16 years behind bars, the parole board felt he demonstrated little emotion or remorse, and had a lack of empathy. They noted that he still can't explain his murderous rage, and didn't utter a word of empathy or remorse. They also stated he blamed the victim for his actions. While Greene was in prison, he was the ideal prisoner. He followed the rules, and only had one fight during his 16 years. He completed a number of psychological and educational programs to facilitate his entry back into society. He was eventually granted parole on February 8 of 2008. The parole board noted in the report, "Reasonable assurance exists that the prisoner will not become a menace to society or to the public safety." He was welcomed back to his community with open arms. Greene would marry Pastor Harris's daughter, Faith Harris, on December 18, 2010. Faith had 2 teenaged children from a previous marriage, Chadney Allen Jr. age 19, and Cara Allen, age 17. Greene and Harris would have 2 children together, Keo, age 5, and Kaylee, age 4. In 2013, Faith filed for a restraining order against Greene, but was denied due to insufficient evidence. Faith had noted in the application that he was kicking things, and threatening her, that if she didn't leave things were going to get ugly, and jumping at her like he was going to attack her. She filed for divorce in that same year, but the paperwork didn't go through. She filed again in 2014, but changed her mind, and cancelled the request. Then she filed again in 2016, but again she backed out. On September 21 in 2016, Gregory Greene taped a plastic tube to the exhaust of their car, poisoning his 2 daughters with carbon monoxide, from the fumes from the exhaust. He then took the children back to the family home, and put them in their beds. He then attacked his wife with a knife, tied her to a chair, slashing her face and throat, and shot her in the foot. He also gagged her, and tied her wrists with zip ties. Then he made Faith's teenage son tie up his sister, then Greene tied the teenage son up. He forced Faith to watch while he shot both of her children in front of her. He shot both children once in the head, and twice in the back. He then called 911, and waited in the driveway for them to arrive. Greene was found competent to stand trial. In February of 2017, he pled guilty to second-degree murder, torture, assault with intent to do great bodily harm. Assistant Wayne County Prosecutor Tricia Gerard said Greene prepared to commit the crimes, and shot a week earlier. He knew what he was going to do, Gerard said. He planned it. On March 1 of 2017, he was sentenced to 102 years in prison. His wife told him, "Justice will come when you burn in hell for all eternity for murdering 4 innocent children. You're a con artist. You're a monster." Greene addressed the court, appearing to show remorse for his behavior, saying, "I feel bad for how this has deeply impacted everyone, and may God help them, help me." The judge told him, "Fathers are supposed to protect their children. Husbands are supposed to protect their wives. Your actions are inconceivable. He will spend the rest of his life behind bars." Albert Peterson was a 57-year-old defense contractor. His wife, Kathleen, worked at Blackbird Technologies, a company that works in defense, law enforcement and intelligence work. The affluent couple had been married for 25 years, and had 2 sons. Matthew, age 16, and Christopher, age 13. The family lived in Herndon, in Fairfax County, Virginia, only a few miles from Washington, D.C. The family lived on a corner home of the cul-de-sac, and were known to always be outside, waving to anyone walking or driving by. They were known as the neighborhood greeters. The couple had lived in this home for over 20 years, since it was first built. Chris was in the 8th grade at Rachel Carson Middle School. Matthew was a sophomore at Westfield High School. Both boys played soccer and went to church regularly. On a Sunday in September of 2012, the family were seen at the neighborhood picnic. The 2 boys played soccer. Albert spoke with neighbors and everyone had a good time. Peterson had been distraught with fear of Obama winning his 2nd term in office. He did not want his children inheriting the mess Obama would leave. Peterson had a long history of mental illness, the loss of his dear uncle, and the fear of Obama taking office again was too much. Friends and relatives knew he had mental illness but always thought he may take his own life, but never anyone else. On Monday the Petersons did not go to work, and their children both missed school. By Tuesday people began to worry. Police were asked to check on the family about 10:30 a.m. that Tuesday morning. Police entered the home located at 13391 Point Rider Lane, just after noon, and found the bodies of the Peterson family. All 4 died from gunshot wounds to the upper body. Mr. Peterson shot his family while they lay in bed, probably asleep. The preliminary investigation indicates that Albert Peterson killed his wife and their children before taking his own life, the Fairfax County Police said in a statement. A neighbor, Jeremy Wilcox, told reporters that at the picnic on Sunday, the family showed no signs of any problems. Another neighbor told reporters that Mr. Peterson had tried to commit suicide in the past, and his new heart medication seemed to affect his personality negatively. The neighbor said he seemed dizzy. All of their neighbors said the family were good people, no signs of any trouble. Except for Peterson's mental issues, and paranoia which held him back from enjoying life. It had become so bad that he had gained weight, and thought often about taking his own life. Recently Albert had begun sending paranoid emails to his friends and family about politics, on a daily basis, and sometimes several a day. The emails would go on about how their rights were being taken away. He feared what direction the country was headed. One family member said some of his erratic behavior stemmed from pressures at work. He said the company made it clear that if they did not vote for Obama and get him re-elected, that they would all lose their jobs. At Rachel Carson Middle School and Westfield High School, on Wednesday students all wore black to mourn their classmates, then on Thursday they all wore white as a sign of peace. Students at Rachel Carson Middle School in Herndon placed post-it notes to Christopher Peterson's locker as a memorial to him. The United Methodist Church held a vigil with students from Rachel Carson Middle School and Westfield High School for the loss of the Peterson family. At the vigil they prayed, read the Bible, sang songs, and wrote their thoughts and condolences on pieces of paper, placed them in a basket, and placed it on the altar, and raised it up in prayer. At the close of the vigil, candles flickered to the song Amazing Grace. Gregory Greene murdered his pregnant wife to keep her from leaving him. He was sent to prison, and then given a second chance at freedom. He threw that freedom away, when facing divorce again. In a rage, he took the lives of his 2 daughters, and his stepchildren, and forced his wife to watch, wounding her in the process. He was a monster, who should be behind bars until he takes his last breath. Albert Peterson suffered from mental illness. Instead of getting the help he desperately needed, he let his paranoia get the best of him, and in the end his family paid the ultimate price. That concludes this episode of Family Annihilators Who Predate Chris Watts. Keep your eye out for the next episode, coming soon. If you enjoyed this video, consider subscribing. Thanks for watching.